So all in all, I thought this course went quite well, but there were a few little spots that I thought I'd point out that might be areas that you can have, pretty minor tweaks, but things to improve. So on the opening here, doggone right, really nice on this. I know you said your confidence with the weave poles is much better than it was. It might be one that you could try doggone left. The disadvantage is that that tunnel is sticking way out, so you really have to have a lot of lateral distance. But if you have a really good dog walk contact, that shouldn't be a problem. And I think it might just give you a little bit more direct line into the weave poles. There was a similar element to this past weekend at USDA Nationals in the Grand Prix finals where the tunnel really stuck out on one side. And so handlers who really trusted their dog walks elected to go on that side. Handlers who didn't trust their dog walk went on the shorter side. And I talked a little bit about that in a map analysis that will be, a run analysis that will be posted in November. So it just might be something worth considering because I do really trust Andy's dog walk. But if you're going to do doggone right, you do want to make sure that you try to run a direct line to the weave poles. You can see here as you come off the dog walk and you release him, you kind of pull him off to the left. So watch your body here. You stop and all is good. Now here's pole one. So let's highlight pole one. We really should see that direct line right into the weave pole. So from here, not only do I think your location should be a little bit to the right, but then you should be releasing and running right in and saying weave. And if we scroll it forward, you actually kind of step left and pull him a little bit to the left and then push back and say weave. Now, his line ends up being fine. He finds the entry, not a big deal, but it's going to cause a little bit of inconsistency and confusion because now you kind of pulling left and moving left was actually consistent with it asking him to turn to the right. So, you now risk a scenario where you actually want him to turn left, so you move left and he flips away from you. So be careful on that. This part all looking really nice, good tunnel sense, both at the red tunnel and at the blue tunnel. And then on this back section here, it's a little hard for me to see exactly what's happening. I had to go back and revisit the course map a couple times just to kind of see where you were going. All of it looks fine. You kind of have a 270 here. You have some really good independence kicking to that backside. You'll notice how far ahead of him you are, which is great. And then I think the big thing here is trusting enough on these jumps leading up to the A-frame that you can get the cross in before the A-frame. And the cross before the A-frame is really doing two things. It's getting the side change so he's on your right for the A-frame, but also trying to come over here and block this jump. It looks like that blind could have maybe been a bit earlier. I kind of lose him, but here you're still on your left, and then right here, so right here I can see you switch over to your right, but if you see he's airborne. So we really would like that blind cross just a little bit earlier going up the A-frame. Okay, but you do get a nice A-frame. You have a lot more independence on your running A-frame than I have. You can see he nicely comes into the yellow, and that's with you really pulling off lateral. To answer your question with regard about strategy before the teeter, I, of course, have not asked Lee about this course specifically, but I can almost guarantee you that he was expecting a curl to the teeter. So when you looked at the map and you thought you would curl, and then when you set it up, you thought you should slice, you probably could have just tweaked your angle of the teeter or your placement of the jump. Because I highly doubt that it was intended to go to the outside. But as you said, it did give you a chance to practice that. Now, this required a lot of independence on the A-frame. You really had to rush and get ahead and barely got up there, right? So, he's getting ready to take off and you're just stepping across out of his path. I think if on this I wanted to go to the outside, so I wanted to turn up the teeter, I think what I would have been inclined to do was run across and blind after the broad and then do a threadle to get to the correct side of the jump. And that's assuming I even needed a threadle. I might have just been able to blind cross and have dog on left, because running the outside of the curve requires you to be so far ahead. And again, you just struggled to barely make it in there. And then you can see a little bit of a wide turn. Look how far off he is. If these are 4-foot jumps, you can see he's at least 4 or 5 feet off that mark because you weren't able to push in on his line because you weren't far enough ahead. So I think maybe a blind after the broad and being on the inside of the curve might have been a little better if in fact you wanted to go to the outside, or go ahead and adjust that teeter angle and curl to the inside. So for training, I absolutely think you need to do what's best with the contact approaches. But, it's always hard to know exactly what the judge was intending unless you're able to see them wheel it or walk it, which is sometimes the advantage at trials. You get to see the judge walk it or wheel it and kind of see what's in their head. But I suspect on this one, he wanted a turn to the inside. So really nice. A few little options here and there for you. Not necessarily worth resetting the course up, but just things to keep in mind for future courses. Good job.